Hi folks, this is Sharon from Hummingbird Sewing, here to teach you today on the Memory Craft 9400 QPC. This is just a basic lesson just to get you up and running. Your CD has probably given you some up and running kind of tips, but I'm here to give you a little bit more support, and hopefully you'll get something out of this lesson. So this is the screen that we see right here. When you turn on the machine, this is the first screen that you see. So we have quite a few different buttons that we can press, but we're just going to stick with the utility stitches for now. And we're going to go through each and every one of them so that you can know what's going on with them. For the first few stitches, we're going to actually use the A foot. So the first stitch we have here is your just your basic stitch that you will use on a regular basis. This little circle here means that it's center needle position, and where you'll find all of that information is down in this area here. When we turn on the machine, you will see the setting at 4.0. That is your center needle position. We can move it depending on where you want your needle positioned for whatever you're doing, whether it's garment sewing or home decor. You can move your needle if you need to, maybe for some piping or something like that. This symbol here represents your stitch length, and when we turn on the machine, it turns on at 2.4. Typically, I don't usually change that on quilting, but everybody has their own different preferences. We can increase it here. You'll see in the screen that it is increasing or decreasing, depending on what you want to do. So right there is just your single stitch, or your stitch that you would normally use. See number 1 right there? That's it there, number 1. Number 2, what that does is it actually will, if I show you on here, you'll probably understand. What it'll do is it'll actually stitch out about 4 stitches at the beginning and then back stitch. And then you can go ahead and proceed with your seam. And when we press your reverse button just once, it'll go forward 4, back 4, and lock it as well. So it's locking the stitch at the beginning and at the end of your work, and that's number 2. Number 3 is a similar one. Right here is number 3. But what it's doing, as you can see in the symbol on your machine, it's showing you a knot. So once again, center needle position, but it is a knot. So there's your knot there. It was going to go ahead and seam, and then it'll knot here as well. When we press the reverse button just once, it will do that for you, and then stop. These 2 stitches are convenient for quilting or garment sewing. Number 4 is what it'll do is it'll actually take your center needle position and it'll bring it over to right on over to the right hand side. So maybe for piping or something like that. Very seldom do we use this button in quilting, and I will be covering what we could do with this button in another video. Number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Well, and technically 10. All of these stitches here are for stretch stitches. So this is the stitching that you'll get for number 5 right here. It shows 3 lines in a row, but actually it's going back and forth on itself, as you can see in this picture here. And that's great for if you're going to take up like a pair of, say, stretchy fabric. You're going to take up a hem or something like that. You could use this stitch. And you can even increase it, which is nice, because on this machine and some of the other machines, they have been able to increase it, and now it's we can increase it, which is just wonderful, because then you can get a more a stitch that looks like your jean stitch, and it's quite a nice stitch actually. Number 6 right here and 7. These are two very similar stitches. They are right here. This one is right here. I didn't show you number 7, but it sort of looks like a little lightning rod, and it's a stretch stitch. It can put seams together, say on a dance outfit or something like that. What the M means here is it starts in the middle and goes out, and this one starts on the left and goes out. So what one is on the left-hand side of your work, or of your plate, and the other one is straight down the center. Number 8 and 9 are zigzag stitches. So there's your zigzag right there. And of course you can always change your zigzags here to whatever you need it to go to. Once again, this is your middle, and this is the one that starts on the right-hand side of your plate. So that's what the M and the R mean, the M and the L. Number 10 is right here, that's a darning stitch. And if you get close enough, you'll see that there's like stitches in between. So this can be used as a stretch stitch, but it is your darning stitch. It can be used also as a little decorative stitch, maybe around the bottom of a bib or something like that. Mind you, you have tons of decorative stitches on this machine for sure. But that's what that one is. This one here is a top stitch. It's not usually something that I show in a lesson. Of course, you're welcome to go ahead and try it out. And it gives you quite a nice little stitch, but it is a more top stitch kind of idea. Number 12, this stitch, we see the little arrow here, and what that means is that the machine will actually go backwards, like until you stop it with your foot. So it's a backwards stitch, and it'll just do your straight stitch, but backwards. Sometimes can be convenient maybe for applique or even for thread painting. But that's what that is for. So we're going to turn the page now to the next page. And here we have an array of stitches for like a serge stitch, finishing the edge stitch. These are here is your blind stitch, and then we have some other stitches here. So number 13 is your serge stitch. So that's it there. That's what it looks like. Number 14 is this one here. That's that guy there. And he's for finishing the edge on, say, a knit garment, something that's of knit. And number 15 is right there. That's what he looks like. There's 16, and there's 17. All of them being serging stitches, depending on what you're doing. Refer to your book when you need to see exactly what they are for. These are pretty much stretch stitches. You can use it more on stretch fabrics. And then this one would be your cotton stitch. 18 is, actually it's just a little decorative stitch. Number 19 and 20 are your blind hem. So what we have for your blind hem here is, you can see, I've done the folding. So say you want your hem to go up like an inch. So we're going to turn it under like this so that you can see the blind hem. This is where the blind stitches are actually laid out. And then this is what it looks like on the hem finish product. Now, as you see, I have some marks on my fabric here. This is when it's set at 0.6. So that's that number right in here. So if we press number 19, you'll see number 6 right here and number 2. This is just your stitch length. What that means on looking at this is how close these little zigzags are. So the the bigger the number, the further these zigzags will be. But number 6 actually tells you where that zigzag is going to be placed on this side of the fabric. So when we're coming along, we're stitching, and then it's going to go over like this, and then come back and stitch on the selvage, over and back. This is number 6, so if I open this up, number 6 gives you this on the other side. This is not lovely by any means, blind stitch, but it just gives you the premise of what you're actually doing. This is, you'll see me going down to, this is number 5, and I think this was 4, and we've got 2 in here. You may want to go to like 1 before you get your, what you would classify as your perfect stitch for a blind hem. Also keep in mind, I've made it in white. If this was blue, you'd have a harder time seeing it. This is, I did use number 19, that right here, this one here, and I used foot G. So what foot G looks like is this guy right here. He has this little crooked little space and this little guide here, and the fabric just butts up against the folded fabric. Actually, the folded fabric butts up against that guide right in here, and then all your stitches are placed through here. I hope you can see that or understand it. Okay, so on to the shell tuck. The shell tuck is a cute one. Back up a little bit. So number 19 is for cottons. Number 20 is specifically for stretch fabrics. So that's what that one's for. On to 21. This one here is your shell tuck. They don't actually mention it in here, but they do mention it in your book. And that's this little groovy stitch right here. What he's actually doing, so I've got this piece of fabric that I folded in half, and I've made my foot so that it's off, really off to one side. So I take the foot, and I'm actually stitching like this so that I get these tucks like this. And this could be used for, I've seen it done around a quilt, where they've taken the binding and they've tucked it in there like this, around like, and this is your, say your quilt right here. This, they've taken that and they've put it all the way around, like say a baby's blanket or something like that. It was a very cute effect. So that's your shell tuck. And you're going to use your F foot. That's another important thing right now. We're getting into more of our decorative stitches. So if I press this little squirrely dig up here, we have lots of stitches that we have available to us. But if we were to press the decorative stitch, see when we get into these stitches here, these are all your decorative stitches. And what we advise is we move from this A foot to this F foot, or this F foot. This is your F2 foot. And why we advise that is because there's this little channel on the back side of your F foot that accommodate these decorative stitches, whereas the A foot does not have that accommodation at all. It's just a nice flat surface. So we always advise that you use your F foot or your F2 foot when doing decorative stitches. Okay, so if we just back up a little bit, I will be covering satin stitch in another lesson, just so you know. Stay tuned. And we have an array of, like if we go into applique, you have an array of blanket stitches. Anytime that these are all blanket stitches, anytime that you see this symbol, it might be a little bit smaller, but this symbol actually means a space. So if we were to go ahead and press this button up here, I'll actually, yeah, I can do it here. Press this button up here. What we are going to do is just have a different assortment of blanket stitches or heirloom stitches, and you see how this is starting to accumulate in here. This is actually what you're going to be stitching out. And this here is your space. So this tells the machine I want a space there before I start on something else. So if I go into, say, where do I get some pretty stuff? Oh, here we go. So like a pictograph, then we can put this assortment, and we just tap here, we can actually see what we've accumulated, and this will all stitch out. And there's your space there. Oopsie. So if we go back to that, which I think I've erased, we just put in a bunch. There's your stitch. This here is your locking stitch. So if we actually say, okay, that's enough, I don't want any more, maybe you have the alphabet, maybe you have a bunch of hearts, whatever it is, this will give you a locking stitch. And this locking stitch will finish the work and tell the machine to finish the work, and then you can press your scissors after that. The A up at the top is your letters. So you have your block stitches, your script, Broadway, and block. So I have a sample of them here. So they did stitch out this way. As you know, this will stitch out this way. This is your large ABC, which you'll find if I go into block. You'll see that right here. This is large. This is the small ABC, which is right here. If I it's a toggle, so it toggles either small or large. And then this guy here, he's actually the block font. So if we go back here and look, you'll see this one. There's the block font, and that's how large he is. He's fairly large, actually. Quite nice. I want to take you now to buttonholes. So I have this buttonhole, there's my buttonhole foot. Let's see better this way. There we go. There's your buttonhole foot. And he has this, what's called a stabilizing plate. So if I move my machine over to here, maybe I can show you this way. So he has the stabilizing plate with it. And what this stabilizing plate is for is to if you have something maybe that's slippery or something like that, it does have a bit of grip here. Or if it's for thicker fabrics, if you have something, say you're doing a buttonhole on a wool coat, this will actually stabilize it and bring the buttonhole up higher, or like give you a better grip on the whole buttonhole so that you can get the job done. Okay, so that's what this guy's for. So you can remove him for if you're just doing a regular buttonhole. And so this is where your button goes in. So if we spread this apart, we can take our button and put him in there and tighten him down. So here we have an S. Sorry, I'll do it this way. S, this already like a little middle, and this is large. What you'll see here has everything to do with this little screw at the top. Now you don't, if you're just doing regular buttonholes, you don't have to move this at all. What this is only for is if you need something that's a bit larger or a bit smaller. So larger, if this button has a big shank on it, this would maybe need to be larger. So we're going to be able to move this and see how the little red line is now on the L. What it's done is it's moved this a little bit larger. And this screw, if you screw it the other way, we could do it a little bit smaller, like I said, for stretch fabrics. You just have to screw it, and there it is on the S. And then this makes this part here, where your lever is going to go down. So your lever will float in between this lever here and this lever here. And the lever I'm talking about is this one right here. Here, I think I can show you. Right here. So this is the lever for your buttonhole, which has to come down in order for it to float between this notch and this notch to indicate to the machine just how big that buttonhole is. Okay. So as you see on your screen, you do have a variety of stitches here. These are just your regular stitches. These three here are for say either a very large shank or a coat or something like that. Then you get a stretch buttonhole as well. You can change your buttonhole. I have it on this piece of fabric right here. So this is what comes up with on this number 4. This is the one that comes up just a regular default. And then this is me, and I changed it. It's still number 4, but I changed the bottom part. So this part here to show you just an exaggeration of the same buttonhole. Okay, folks, well, that's what I have for today. I'm going to do another video on the feet and the plates that this machine came with. And I'm also going to do the satin stitch and maybe some other things as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video for today. And just let me know how you feel about the whole thing, and if you're learning something, if I can add anything more to my videos. I do appreciate your feedback. Thank you and have a great day. Bye now.